The attorney my mother trusted with her estate never replied to the email she sent him, asking about the document that would determine what happened to $60,000 after she died. I found out about the email 8 months after her funeral, sitting in a different attorney's office, reviewing a file that should have been straightforward. My mother had been organized. She had kept records. She had a folder for everything, labeled in her handwriting with the specific precision of a woman who had watched her own mother lose an estate to paperwork nobody had paid attention to and had decided that would not happen to her. The email was in the folder, sent on a Monday morning at 11:17 a.m. Subject: updating the beneficiary designation. Body: a clear, specific request asking whether the document had been updated following the conversation they had had 3 weeks earlier. No response in the thread, no follow-up from his office, no acknowledgement of receipt. She had died 4 months later. The document had not been updated. The $60,000 in her retirement account had gone to the person named on the original designation, a person she had intended to remove. The attorney had been paid to get it right. The retention anchor. The email platform her attorney used had read receipts enabled by default. The read receipt was in the metadata of my mother's sent folder. Her email had been opened at 11:44 a.m. on the Monday she sent it. 27 minutes after she sent it, he had opened it and read it. He had read it and not replied, and had not taken any action, and had not followed up. And 4 months later, my mother had died, and the document was still wrong. He had read it. My name is Laura. My mother spent 22 years building what she had, carefully, without much help, on a teacher's salary and a set of habits about money that I absorbed without realizing I was absorbing them. She bought things once and kept them well. She saved before she spent. She paid her attorney, a man named Gerald, a retainer fee every year for 14 years because she believed that having professional guidance was worth the cost and because she trusted the relationship they had built. The financial advisor was a man named Thomas, estate planning specialist, measured and precise, who had worked with my mother on the investment side of her affairs for 6 years. Thomas had been present at a meeting 11 months before her death in which Gerald had made a recommendation that Thomas had considered incorrect. Thomas had raised his concern in the meeting. Gerald had dismissed it. Thomas had written a memo to his own file, documenting the disagreement, the date, and the specific recommendation he believed was wrong. The recommendation Gerald had made at that meeting was the same one my mother had apparently followed up on in the email he never answered. Thomas had flagged it as potentially problematic at the time. Gerald had proceeded without updating her on the outcome. My attorney, a woman named Christine, professional negligence specialist with the particular focus of someone who finds inadequate work genuinely offensive, requested Gerald's complete file in discovery. The file was 43 pages. It contained no record of any action taken in response to my mother's email. It contained no note of a follow-up call. It contained no documentation of any decision made about the beneficiary designation following her inquiry. Gerald's attorney produced, at the first hearing, a written statement from Gerald saying that he had intended to follow up on the email, but that a high volume of client matters during that period had resulted in an administrative oversight. An oversight. Christine said, he read it in 27 minutes and took no action for 4 months. That is not an oversight. That is a failure. The midpoint arrived when Gerald's attorney offered to settle for $30,000, half the amount my mother had lost. Christine recommended refusing. I refused. Gerald's attorney expressed surprise. Christine said, the read receipt is not ambiguous. The memo from Thomas documents the concern raised about this specific issue 11 months before the email. The failure is documented twice from 2 independent sources. We are not settling for half. We did not settle for half. The case went to a full hearing. Thomas gave evidence. He was precise, reluctant in the way of a professional who does not enjoy criticizing a colleague, and completely clear about what he had observed and documented. The read receipt was admitted as evidence. The gap between the read timestamp and the date of death was presented as a timeline of inaction. Gerald settled for the full $60,000 on the fourth day of the hearing, before his own testimony was scheduled. His attorney contacted Christine that morning. Full settlement. No admission of liability in the formal language, but every component of the payment reflecting exactly what the admitted liability would have required. My mother's estate was finally distributed correctly 8 months later. The $60,000 went where she had intended it to go. The wholesome part of this story is small, but it is real. When I told my daughter, she is 12, that we had won the case, she asked me what winning felt like. I told her it felt like her grandmother's folder doing what her grandmother intended it to do. She thought about that for a moment and said, "Gran would have liked that." She would have. She kept records because she believed records were how you made sure things happened correctly. She was right. The email was in the folder was in the file was in front of a judge. Keep records, keep everything. You cannot know in advance which document will matter.